you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever
Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions, behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
I'm here to tell you tonight that the businessmen, the mayor of this city, the police commissioner of this city, and everybody in the white power structure of this city must take a responsibility for everything.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Luther and I, and everyone in this arena tonight, are unified by the same great American values. We're proud of our country. We respect our flag. Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
Race is when you use your power and influence to subject people into inferiority. Utterances can't be racist.
Look around you, man. They own this shit. They own this couch you sitting on, them shoes you got on your feet, this building, this school, this country, you. We're behind enemy lines, dog.
So you must first of all remember that this system was not originally designed with black people in mind. Right on, and it definitely was not prepared for black people to, in the end, begin to demand their rights and an equal share in this country which they died for. Right on. Hey, and we definitely are not going back to Africa.
In the church, we used to sing the song, "Good News, the chariot is coming." While you sit here today, knowing that you have come to hear good news, you must realize in advance what good news for you might be bad news for somebody else. What good news for the sheep might be bad news to the wolf.
They say, oh, things are getting so much better for you. In 1849, it was hitting blacks on the head 100 times a day. In 1990, they hit them 48 times a day. Isn't it better? Oh, it's got to be better. You're saved 52 blows.
The only purpose of most black Americans on earth today is to destroy.
I think that's noble. Italians love Italians. When Irish love Irish. But when a nigga loves a nigga, it's an unpardonable sin. They have blood in their hands. When we say they have blood in their hands, we are not saying him, George Bezos, went and killed. But white people colonized us. They dispersed us. They enslaved our people. They sucked our economy dry. They are still sucking it dry even today. That's white people. Tony Blair, George Bush, Napoleon Bonaparte, Leopold, Adolf Hitler, Benjamin Netanyahu. All white people, they are the same. They are racist and they are full of hate.
I've been waiting for you. You have many questions, and though the process has altered your consciousness, you remain irrevocably human. Ergo, some of my answers you will understand, and some of them you will not. Concordantly, while your first question may be the most pertinent, you may or may not realize it is also the most irrelevant.
Why am I here?
Our world is coming crumbling down. The coons are coming.
You got to understand that white America has an uncanny way of making the victim the victimizer. Excuse me, master, for putting my head in the way of your club. Not that your club is brutalizing my head and putting hickeys on it. My head got in the way of your free swing and broke your shiny stick, and I want to apologize for that.
Your life is the sum of a remainder of an unbalanced equation inherent to the programming of the Matrix. You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision. While it remains a burden assiduously avoided, it is not unexpected and thus not beyond a measure of control. which has led you inexorably here.
There are more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. We possess a gigantic network of information to which we have almost no access.
Matrix is older than you know. I prefer counting from the emergence of one integral anomaly to the emergence of the next, in which case this is the 6th version.
5 months before me. 3. There are only 2 possible explanations. They were 5 months before me. Either no one told me, or no one knows.
Precisely. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equations.
Control me! I'm gonna smash you to kill you! You can't make me do anything like friend. Choice. The problem is choice.
Let us remember that we are not brutalized because we're Baptists. We're not brutalized because we're Methodists. We're not brutalized because we're Muslims. We're not brutalized because we're Catholics. We're brutalized because we are black people in America.
Because white people made him to be what he is. They made him to look evil, because that's their role, to make all of us black people to look evil and to hate ourselves. I can't hate.
You're a nigga till you die. If you're a poor nigga, you're a poor nigga. If you're a rich nigga, you're a rich nigga. But you never stop being a nigga, and if you get to be educated, you're just an educated nigga.
Well, I'm told every day I'm on air that I'm racist because I call out racism. That is maddening to me, and I'm crying about it because it's crazy.
So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is teaching you and I and trying to tell the white man to get this powder keg out of his house. Let the black man separate from his house. Let the black man have his own house. Let the black man have his own land and his own property.
I thought the bitch was white! Damn it! I thought the bitch was white!
That's true.
I think that white people are so guilty, knowing what they've done to black people, that they feel if the deeds were reversed, they would hate the black man if he had done the same thing to them. So it's actually, it reflects a guilt complex on the part of whites when they ask us, do we hate them? And if you notice, Uncle Sam has formed a habit of going all over the world. He calls it the ugly American, or the American image. He thinks that everybody hates him because it's a guilt complex. And if you think that if you are worried about Europeans hating you, and they're your allies and your cousins, well, naturally it would follow for you to think that Negroes in this country would hate you, especially in light of what has been done to black people in this country by white people.
Now, check it out. The white ball dominates everything, right? It knocks the shit out the yellow ball, the red ball, right? And the game's over when the white ball drives the black ball completely off the table.
But you have to see that all of this is hypocrisy.
I love Malcolm. Malcolm called me the Sunday that he died. I was working Basin Street East. He said, "Brother Greg, you coming by today?" And I said, "Malcolm, I love you." And I said, "I love you so much, I don't even want to take a chance to be there." He said, "What do you mean, Brother Greg?" I said, "Well, I close tonight, Sunday night at Basin Street East." And I said, "But I had my wife book me a flight into Chicago at 8 o'clock this morning, and I'm going to Chicago, and I had way beneath my salary booked me into a college about 10 miles from the airport. And I'm going to go there and speak this afternoon, and I'm going to stay there until they tell me you dead. Because I'm not going to let this government get 2 of us for the price of 1. And I'm going to call Adam Clayton Powell when I finish talking to you and beg him not to come there. Because today, the United States government is going to get you."
Good evening and welcome to the Mr. Blows Your Mind show. I'm your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds. I want to thank for those who came out tonight, whether you're an agent, subscriber, or passerby. My show is dedicated to give the view, the scene, the landscape, the picture, the aspect, where the earth meets the sky, the angle, the slant, the turn of mind, where one is coming from, the spirit, and let's see the value. As of the descendants of the greatest people who were ever created in this United States, I ask that my ancestors be with my heart, mind, and spirit, and ask that the Creator be present as well. Because why? The truth don't need no partner. Well, what's my subject for tonight? I didn't put nothing down. But based on some of the things that had taken place today, I decided I would come on. And, you know, I got to start the show off with some history. For those, if you're just passing by, I start off with my show with some history. And then I'll start getting into the rest of the show. Well, since today is September the 6th, I have to do history that was done on this date of September the 6th. Well, I'm going to start off today with South Carolina civil disturbance of 1876. I'm going to say that again. South Carolina civil disturbance of 1876. The South Carolina civil disturbance of 1876 was a series of race riots and civil unrest related to the Democratic Party's political campaign to take back control from Republicans of the state legislators and governor's office through their paramilitary Red Shirts division. Part of the plan was to disrupt Republican political activity and suppress black voting, particularly in counties where populations of whites and blacks were close to equal. Former Confederate General Martin W. Gary's plan of the campaign of 1876 gives the details of planned actions to accomplish this. The following incident took place mostly in counties where blacks were in the majority, but not significantly. The upstate counties had majority of whites and racial disturbances were uncommon, whereas the low country counties had an overwhelming black population. White militias were not so active there. In the Midlands, Enfield District, and Charleston area, Democrats exerted considerable efforts to step up Democratic vote and suppress black Republican voting by intimidation and violence, including outright murder and assassination of black state representatives. In 1875, Charleston had a population that was 57% black, with a Charleston County population that was 73% black. Having had a tradition of well-established class of free people of color in the city, African Americans organized to defend themselves during this volatile period. By suppressing the black majority in Enfield County, an election fraud of 2,000 more votes were counted than the total number of registered voters in the country, or in the county. The Democrats elected Wade Hampton III as the Democratic candidate by a narrow margin of slightly more than 1,100 votes statewide. They also carried the state legislator. And that is the history on this date, September 6, 1876. Ironically, when you look at that history, it's kind of like the climate that's happening now, right? But it's kind of in reversal. If we take back in history, we realize that if you are part of the DOS, which is the descendants of slaves of this land, those people who were Confederates were Democrats, and those on the other side were Republicans. And that's why the Republicans say that they are the ones who actually freed, if you go with that Emancipation Proclamation, which I told you just the other day, that is nothing but an announcement. It was never really a law, but it was an announcement, right? But the Republican Party are taking the credit on that. So at that particular time, those blacks who decided that they wanted to be Republicans, the Democrats went after them in South Carolina because of the majority of the population of those counties. We see that today, where we see that certain areas are having voter frauds or not allowing blacks to participate, and then the question every 50 years, excuse me, got something in my throat, every year that or every 50 years, the question comes back whether you're going to allow black people to vote again, right? So this has been an ever-going fight that those that are the descendants of this land from the black American aspect, again, when you say African American, in my eyes, in my opinion, that is just an umbrella anything that has a descendancy that goes back to Africa. When I say black American, I mean those who have the blood, who are cut from the cloth of the blood, sweat, and soil of the land that comes from the South, and your people are part of the slavery that happened in this landmass. And that is one of the histories that happened on this day in 1876. I have another one, but that one is going to be a little bit extensive. So what I'm going to do, because let me look out in the crowd. Somebody like to let me know that my mic sound nice. Give me a 1, a check, mic check. Everything sound good. Let me know. As you know, the other night I did get knocked out, but I went and fine-tuned everything up. So tonight it seems it might be kind of crisp and clean, no caffeine, right? So if anybody in the audience of the people that I see out there, would anybody like to let me know that my mic sounds nice? If you would do that for me so kindly. So, did y'all see, matter of fact, as I talked about this history about the South Carolina civil disturbance, did any of y'all see what took place today with Cory Booker? Did y'all see that? I'm going to play this clip for y'all because, well, it's kind of interesting, right? And it's going to be interesting. So let me let you get this. And let me give you a little intro to it. I'm just playing the music just to get to it.
I was disappointed to see last night that some of our colleagues are unwilling or unable to conduct themselves in this hearing with regular order and in accordance with the rules of the committee and the rules of the Senate. I know last night some of our colleagues even tried to cross-examine the nominee about documents but refused to let him even read them. Members of the Senate and members of Congress generally are privy to sensitive information, including classified information on occasion, and we're expected to protect that information for all of the obvious reasons. And it's inappropriate to raise these in an open session before the committee. And I think our colleagues understand that, but nevertheless decided to go ahead anyway. So I just think it's important that we remind one another that there are clear rules about the discussion of confidential material and that there can be consequences to the violations of those rules. And this idea that somehow President Bush, when his lawyer and the president decide that information represents legal advice or other protected information that was given to the president during the time he was president of the United States, and that somehow he is unable to make a claim of privilege, or that once the claim is made in consultation with his private lawyer that would be not respected by the Senate, is outrageous. And so I thought we were doing pretty well yesterday, but things went off the rails, it looks like, last night. And I hope we will return to a hearing process that respects the rules of the Senate and that treats each other, and particularly the nominee, with the civility that he and this process is entitled to. And I'd encourage our colleagues to avoid the temptation to either violate the Senate rules or to treat the witness unfairly by cross-examining him about a document and refusing to show it to him, and violating the confidentiality of some of these documents as requested by President Bush in consultation with his private lawyer.
Sir, may I respond, because it was directly invoking, may I respond, sir? No Senate rule accounts for Bill Burke's partisan review of the documents. No Senate rule and no history of the Senate accounts for what is going on right now. There was that was following this archives, this partisan operative, following his involvement in this process that I think, in my opinion, undermined the process. And the idea that we could somehow go through your lengthy process when these documents are, many of these documents are dumped us in the last minute, but to Senator Cornyn actually made a very good point. I knowingly violated the rules that were put forth, and I'm told that the committee confidential rules have knowing consequences. And so, sir, I come from a long line, as all of us do as Americans, and understand what that kind of civil disobedience is, and I understand the consequences. So I am right now, before your process is finished, I'm going to release the email about racial profiling, and I understand that the penalty comes with potential ousting from the Senate. And if Senator Cornyn believes that I violated Senate rules, I openly invite and accept the consequences of my team releasing that email right now. And I'm releasing it to expose that, number one, the emails that are being withheld from the public have nothing to do with national security, nothing to jeopardize the sanctity of those ideals that I hold dear. Instead, what I'm releasing this document right now to show, sir, is that we have a process here for a person, the highest office in the land, for a lifetime appointment. We're rushing through this before me and my colleagues can even read and digest the information.
Can I ask you how long you're going to say the same thing 3 or 4 times?
No, sir. How long
do you want?
I'm saying I'm knowingly violating the rules.
Okay.
Senator Cornyn has called me out for it.
How many times you going to tell us?
Sir, I'm saying right now that I'm releasing committee confidential documents.
Mr. Chairman, since the senator invoked my name, I insist on an opportunity to respond. I did not mention his name, but he had mentioned my name, and he's right. Running for president is no excuse for violating the rules of the Senate or of the confidentiality of the documents that we are privy to. This is no different from the senator deciding to release classified information that is deemed classified by the executive branch because you happen to disagree with the classification decision. That is irresponsible and outrageous. And I hope that the senator will reconsider his decision, because no senator deserves to sit on this committee or serve in the Senate, in my view, if they decide to be a law unto themselves and willingly flout the rules of the Senate and the determination of confidentiality and classification. That is irresponsible and conduct unbecoming a senator.
I want to clarify something that I said before. There is no Senate rule that accounts for this process, period. This is not a Senate rule. I did not violate a Senate rule. But I will pause. There is no Senate rule that I violated, because there's no Senate rule that accounts for this process. And I say to a chairman that I respect, that I believe has been fair and good to me, I will say that I did willingly violate the chair's rule on the committee confidential process. I take full responsibility for violating that, sir. And I violate it because I sincerely believe that the public deserves to know this nominee's record. In this particular case, his record on issues of race and the law. And I could not understand, and I violated this rule knowingly, why these issues should be withheld from the public. Now, I appreciate the comments of my colleagues. This is about the closest I'll probably ever have in my life to an I am Spartacus moment. My colleagues, numerous of them, said that they too accept the responsibility. There were very serious charges that were made against me by my colleague from Texas. I don't know if they were political bluster or sincere feelings. If what he said was sincere, there actually are Senate rules governing the behavior of senators. If he feels that I, and now my fellow colleagues who are with me, have violated those rules, if he is not a tempest in a teapot, but sincerely believes that, then bring the charges. Go through the Senate process to take on somebody that you said is unbecoming to be a senator. Let's go through that process, because I think the public should understand that at a moment that somebody's up for a lifetime appointment, that this issue, does the public have a right to know? This is not about the Presidential Records Act. This is not a violation of the Presidential Records Act, not a violation of Senate rules, sir. But if somebody's going to land those charges, I hope that they will follow through with me and Senator Durbin, Senator Coons, Senator Whitehouse, Senator Hirono, Senator Blumenthal, now Senator Feinstein. I hope that they will bring charges against us. And I'm ready to accept the full responsibility for what I have done, the consequences for what I have done, and I stand by the public's right to have access to this document and know this nominee's views on issues that are so profoundly important, like race and the law, torture, and other issues.
Mr. Chairman, may I read the Senate Rule 29.5, the standing rules of the Senate, for the benefit of all senators. Any senator, officer, or employee of the Senate who shall disclose the secret or confidential business or proceedings of the Senate, including the business and proceedings of the committees, subcommittees, and offices of the Senate, shall be liable, if a senator, to suffer expulsion from the body, and if an officer or employee, to dismissal from the service of the Senate and to punishment or contempt. So I would correct the senator's statement. There is no rule. There is clearly a rule that applies.
Then apply the rule and bring the charges.
Okay. For those who may not have known what had took place today, we had Cory Booker, who's a politician, right? He's a junior United States Senator from New Jersey. He's been in office since 2013, considered to be a first African-American for the U.S. Senator from New Jersey, right? And what you seen there was that he, based on, they were doing the confirmation for that Brett Kavanaugh, for appointee for judge. And from my understanding of it was that, you know, they go through this confirmation where they get a chance to question him about some things that might be unethical or question as into his background. So according to what I'm getting through my research, what I've seen and read, there were certain information that was being labeled confidential. And by being labeled confidential, it didn't allow them to question him based on the fact that being labeled this, they couldn't ask questions. And Cory Booker is saying that there was a lot of things in there as a person of African American or Black American descent that he felt like that needed to be questioned. If he's going to be an appointee judge who's going to be for life, and based on how we, as people of the descendants of this slave of this nation, and how the judicial system deals with us, you know, is this political part, you know, let's say if this is some kind of political charade, or is he really doing what he's saying he is, which is he's saying that he's representing the people that had voted for him and he represents them, and if something he sees that would be damaging, isn't it incumbent on him to try to, again, he's trying to bring it to the public's eye. Because again, if he doesn't, what happens if, let's say, this person gets in? Then later on, he'll be taking the fall when they find out all the dirt about him, and then he's, you know, participating in laws that will be incumbent upon us. They're going to use him as the face and say, well, see, he allowed it. He's an African American, or he's Black American. He didn't stop it. So he's putting himself in position that he said he's willing to be expelled as a senator, right? And he told them, bring it on, right? So this is something I just want to bring for those who, again, when you come to my channel, I've always tried to be informative as to history and some of the things that go on. May not be important to you right now, but if you see how things are being set up, somebody is setting this up. They got some plans down the line. So again, if you want to comment on it, you know, you can leave your comment about it. I'm not going to go too much, but I just gave you a little bit of background for those who might be a little bit more inquisitive, want to know. That's just a start of it, just to go back and look for yourself. Okay? Now, based on that, too, there's some history, because, again, when you're dealing with this judicial system and you're talking about, you know, we as the DOS of this land, also on this day of September 6th, there was another history that goes back to like 1966. And it happened in Atlanta. Let me see if I can pull this up. And it was, let's see if I can go ahead, because I know this one's going to be a little extensive. I may not go all through it, but I'm going to just give you the gist, because it's very long. It says, on September 6, 1966, hours after Atlanta police shot and basically they killed. They saying here in this story, they're saying shot and seriously wounded, but really they killed the boy. It was a black suspect car thief is what they try to classify it. Hundreds of blacks rioted in the area around the newly built Atlanta Fulton County Stadium. The $18 million project Mayor Ivan Allen Jr. had supported to lure a Major League Baseball team to the city, crying Black Power and decrying the white bastards. Protesters hurled rocks and bottles and overturned police cars and television trucks. At least 15 people were injured in the violence, including 4 policemen. Mayor Allen rushed to the scene and pleaded for calm from the top of a police car, but protesters chanted, "White devils, white devils." Police arrest 63 people, including Stokely Carmichael, the fiery leader of the Student Nonviolence Coordinator Committee, and other SNCC officials. More than a year after the Selma March drew thousands of supporters to Alabama, and the Watts riots in Los Angeles shocked the nation, and only months after racial tension escalated in Cleveland and Chicago, Atlanta drew national attention as the latest major city forced to confront urban unrest. The riots stained Atlanta's well-maintained reputation as a city too busy to hate, a model of racial harmony in the South, and particularly alarmed Mayor Allen, whose congressional testimony in support of the 1964 Civil Rights Act helped bolster the city's progressive national image. 4 days after the riots, William Hayward James, a white 42-year-old carpenter and tree trimmer, and his wife, Edna Ruth, were driving their 1959 Chevrolet through the Boulevard neighborhood of Atlanta in the early evenings. James and his wife were heading south on Boulevard, a predominantly black section of the city, Old Fourth Ward, while Hewlett M. Varner, Jr., a 16-year-old black teenager, and a few of his friends had gathered on the curb in front of an apartment building where Varner and his family lived. James and his wife drove past the boys, then suddenly stopped and put the car in reverse. Witness Ronald Barnes told police. James' faithful decision to back his car up to the crowd of boys would lead to a series of events that left a young man dead on the streets, produced a high-profile criminal trial with a surprising outcome, and led the Supreme Court of Georgia to trump the trial verdict with an unexpected decision of its own. Earlier that evening, according to statements of the facts of the case that reached the Supreme Court of Georgia, James and his wife had had a confrontation with a separate group of black teenagers. Someone had called "Hey baby" or "Hey sweetheart" to Miss James while she and her husband were driving. Miss James pulled a gun out of a paper sack, but the group dashed from the car and ran away. Several minutes later, the couple drove past a group of people standing outside Varner's home at 420 Boulevard, 2 miles from the Gold Dome of Georgia State Capitol. James suspected that someone in the group had called out to his wife and he stopped the car. The High Court statement of the facts shows. Witness Ronald Barnes told police that James backed up the Chevy to the apartment building and yelled out to the crowd, "You talking to us?" Alex King, one of the teenagers in the group, replied that no one had said anything. But James pushed his way back and fired his pistols 6 times through the open car window. King told authorities. One of the bullets struck Roy Wright, Varner's 16-year-old friend, wounding him in the back and side, and another bullet hit Varner in the left eye. James and his wife raced from the scene, speeding south on the boulevard. Witness told police shortly after, Atlanta Police Sergeant Marvin J. Spears arrived on the scene and was shot in the head. Ambulance rushed to take Sergeant Spears to Grady Hospital, where the 2 boys were taken after Spears in the second ambulance, a delay that many black observers criticized. The shooting death of Varner incited another round of racial violence that evening, the second in 5 days. Mayor Allen and his wife visited the mother of Varner and Wright the following day to offer their sympathies. "We have boys of our own. I know you must feel," Miss Allen told an inconsolable Nora Varner. Mayor Allen offered a $10,000 reward for the arrest and convictions of the predators of the shooting and pledged the full force of the city's government to apprehend and convict the persons or persons guilty. 2 days later, William Haywood James and his wife, Edna Ruth James, were arrested and arraigned for the fatal shooting. James, who had a 7-page police report record dating back to 1942 and was already on bond from a September arrest for robbery, pleaded not guilty. A state grand jury indicted James for murder. In February of 1967, James was tried by Judge Stonewall Dryer's Fulton County Superior Court, George K. McPherson. The Fulton County Assistant Solicitor General prosecuted the case for the state, which sought the death penalty. McPherson had the daunting task of convincing an all-white Fulton County jury to convict a white man for murdering a black man, an improbable assignment considered the near immunity white jurors had in the South gave to those who committed racially motivated crimes against blacks. On Tuesday, February 7th, both sides made arguments before the jury of 10 men and 2 women in what news account consistently referred to as an unsworn testimony. James told the court that he acted out of fear for the safety of his wife and himself. "I didn't mean to kill anybody," James said. "I was protecting my wife." James claimed that he was struck on the head with a brick and attacked as he and his wife drove through the boulevard section of Atlanta. According to Atlanta Constitution reporter Reuben Smith, James added that he shot a couple of times in self-defense. The defense, in an attempt to strengthen its argument that James only fired after blacks attacked him, contended that the riots were in progress before Varner was killed. Detective Lieutenant J.E. Hems, however, testified that there were no disturbances in the area before the shooting. The state called 4 eyewitnesses to the shooting, all whom testified that James had shot Varner unprovoked. McPherson, the full county assistant solicitor general, argued to the jury that James fabricated his story. Then, in a very unusual and blunt pitch to jury members, the assistant solicitor general challenged them to find James, a white man, guilty of murdering a black youth, a crime that often went unpunished in the Jim Crow South. "You have opportunity to destroy an ugly, malicious stigma that a white man will not be convicted in the South of murdering a Negro," McPherson told jurors. "I ask you to find this man guilty of murder regardless of how you feel towards the Negro population. Are we going to be another Alabama or Mississippi?" The following day, the jury found James guilty of murder. The prosecution asked for the death penalty, but the jury recommended mercy. Upon the jury's binding recommendation, Judge Dyer sentenced James to life imprisonment. McPherson pleaded to break the South's well-documented history of acquitting whites for racially driven murders has resonated with the jurors. James' attorney, Charles Musket and Charles Moore, filed an appeal on the verdict of the Supreme Court of Georgia. James' attorney claimed that the trial judge made 20 errors that should lead the state Supreme Court to reverse the jury's verdict. On October 9, 1967, a unanimous Georgia Supreme Court handed down its verdict. The court rejected 17 of those claims. Nothing the court said about the other 3 suggested it had found the error fatally harmful to James' defense. Led by Chief Justice W.H. Duckworth, the unanimous High Court found that Judge Dreyer erred in denying the admission of the testimony of 2 witnesses, Fred Riley and Officer Marvin J. Spears, who was shot the night Varner was killed. James' attorney had argued that the officers would have been able to support James' account that he acted in self-defense, riotous conditions. The Supreme Court agreed with James' attorney. The High Court said that the possible testimony from Riley and Spears was relevant to show the conditions existing in that neighborhood and to corroborate the defense statement that riotous conditions existed at the time of the shooting. Yet both Riley Spears' testimony concerned events that occurred after James shot Varner. Neither witness could have provided evidence to confirm James' allegation that violence had already erupted before he shot Varner. The court also ruled that a statement Judge Dreyer made about James' defense counsel in presence of the jury was prejudicial and improper, or prejudicial and improper. 8 months after Fulton County Supreme Court found James guilty of murder, the state Supreme Court ruled that James Dreyer's exclusion of testimony and his prejudicial statement during the proceeding constituted sufficient enough error to overturn the conviction. The court concluded judgment reversed, all the justices concurred. At the request of the Georgia Civil Rights Cold Case Project in Emory, a former law clerk of Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Georgia reviewed the High Court of 1967 decision. Virginia Looney, who served as law clerk to the Chief Justice, Norman Fletcher for 12 years, and Carol Heinston for 12 years, and served as the City of Atlanta's ethnic chief for 8 years, said she was surprised the verdict was overturned. I found the opinion annoying because it did not distinguish between error, harmless error, and reversal error, she wrote in Analyst. Now, why did I read all that? We just talked about what Cory Booker was just talking about in that CNN clip. They're about to try to appoint a judge who has a lifetime seat. If you know anything that's going on in Chicago, where the Laquan McDonald story, where this ex-cop Van Dyke has shot McDonald 16 times. That case is already almost 2 years old, almost 3 years old. They've been shuffling this case, right? They're trying to get him new venue. They're trying to do everything to do it, right? So eventually they're trying to get it to go to a higher court because they say you can't get justice. Now, if you appointing people in the Supreme Court who have a particular view, right? As we read what happened in Atlanta that caused the riot, they were using that there was a riot before that incident took place, and it justified he was shooting because he was scared because they were already rioting, which was a lie. In the lower courts, they had convicted him, but when he took it to the Supreme Court, they overturned it, found technicalities in let's say, the undefeated of whites never being convicted but killing a black had now been reverted back to undefeated. So again, what Cory Booker is doing, we may have to look and commend him because he might be giving up something, or it could be just a political ploy. It could be just a play. But if it's real, he has to be commended. If he sees things that the people are sending him out there to do, and he's willing to stick his neck out, and he said for his career on behalf of who he's representing, then that's how you play politics. Let's see, did I lose it? I lost at least one in here, huh? All right, so just wanted to bring that out. Kind of fell in sync with it because that was what happened today. And this particular story happened today, September 6, 1966, Atlanta riots. Now, what do I got for you now? Oh, I got something. Now, check this out. Now, I don't know if any of y'all heard that. Now, the reason why I do what I do is because, see, I come on at this particular time because, you know, everybody do what they have to do. And this is a good time. Kids might be sleeping if you got kids or whatever, or you at a certain age. Okay? Because people winding down. So put something on your mind so when you go to sleep, you can ponder over some of this stuff. I'm not saying you have to take it for what it is, but it is what it is. You need to be knowing about certain things that's going on. A lot of people out here are doing channels that are pertaining to entertaining and entertainment as into the lifestyles of people who are entertainers and athletes. And there's nothing wrong with that. But in the climate, in the time that we in right now, you need to be knowing a lot of the things that are going on that's going to have an effect on us. All right? Now, there's a lot of us, and I can't say for anybody who here particular, but I'm just going to say there's people who advocate, they got the pro-blackness, they might be, you know, when they become, say, Pan-Africans and so forth. You hear a lot of that when you watch and go around on the internet, right? And our descendants, if we trace back, of course we're going to end up getting into the land that they call Africa, right? That's obvious. That's not like, that's not true. But we knew what, if you know history, you know what happened in 1885 when the European nations went and they carved up Africa. Britain taking this spot, France taking this spot, Germany taking this portion over here, Italy wants this portion over here. You understand? They carved it up, and then somehow they tell us back by the 60s, they start to give independent and giving them back it. Right? But I want you to see this that broke today. Or a matter of fact, it might have broke yesterday. So I'm going to show you today. Check this out.
To make sure that these 8 initiatives are implemented on the ground, China will extend $60 billion of financing to Africa in the form of government assistance as well as investment and financing by financial institutions and companies. This will include $15 billion of grants, interest-free loans, and concessional loans. $20 billion of credit lines. The setting up of a $10 billion special fund for development financing and a $5 billion special fund for financing imports from Africa. We encourage Chinese companies to make at least $10 billion of investment in Africa in the next 3 years. In addition, for those of Africa's least developed countries, heavily indebted and poor countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing countries that have diplomatic relations with China, the debt they have incurred in the form of interest-free Chinese government loans due to mature by the end of 2018 will be exempted.
Do you have any African news tips? Let us know.
Okay, check that out. China just gave $60 billion to Africa. China done gave $140 billion already since 2000 to 2017. 2018, they done came and gave them $60 billion. So for all my Pan-Africans, all pro-black talking about going back to Africa, they done bought Africa. Talking about no strings attached. We gonna give you money. Now, men out here listening to me, but sisters and women who might be listening, if a man came to you and was like, look baby, check this out. I'm gonna hit you off with about $50,000. Ain't nothing, just take that. We good, right? Here you go. What you gonna be thinking, sister? This nigga trying to get some pussy. Huh? This nigga trying to get some motherfucking pussy. This nigga trying to put some pussy on layaway. Right? Brother, men, you know it if you gave somebody some money like that and talking about no string attached. You know damn well there's some strings attached. You just don't see it, like buy one, get one free, right? The lure is you getting one, you getting this one. If you buy this one, you ain't paying for it. You know damn well you're paying in that first one for both of them. Split the price in half, and that's what you're paying when you buy one, get one free. Take that one, the one that you're paying for, split it in half, that's the two you're buying, right? So if they gonna give them $60 billion and talking about no string attached, and they say we're not gonna interfere with none of your political and none of your country, really? Really? You ever read this book called The Confession of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins? You ever read that? If not, check that out. That teaches you how they do this. What they do is taking countries that got resources like Africa got. Now they trying to be developed, right? They're trying to compete and be on the level as this really, when you look at it, it's really it's not even real. Because if everybody trying to come and get in your land and try to get your resources, then what was they building their shit on, right? And they say that you as a third world or a developing country, the only reason why you developing because the word is called colonization, right? Or imperialism before colonization, right? So somebody came and they taken your land and then give it back to you and take all they shit. Like I said, we gonna build all this industrial shit. We're gonna start building, and then you start crying, we want our country back. And they say, all right, fuck it, we're gonna leave. We're gonna take all our shit and we're gonna leave. Now they done put you back at ground zero, and then they gonna say, look at them. See, they don't develop, they don't do any damn thing. See, that's the part they don't want to talk about. They want to tell you that you come in, you excavating, you digging, and you stealing all the resources. And then you, again, because of your imperialism and colonization, you go all around the world. Remember, yesterday was the Opium War, right? And you manufacture and you build. So the people become dependent on what you're doing. They don't get a chance to build for themselves. And so what ends up happening is what? You force them to leave. They take all they goods, and then they leave you at ground zero. And then they want to sit back and keep saying, that Jesse D. Peter talking about black people don't build anything. Well, of course not. You never got a chance to actually really garner your own resources and be able to sell it. No, somebody else is always undermining you. So again, $60 billion was given. Think about that. We probably going to be some of the last generations that going to be able to say Africa was black. Listen to what I'm saying, y'all. We going to be the last people. Now, the people who coming behind us, especially, let's say, it depends on where you at right now. Say either you a parent, either you an adult, or you a grandparent, or so forth, right? Them new ones coming. Matter of fact, I got a video I can show on that just to show you what I'm talking about. But they not gonna know what we know right now. Like I say, we know. I mean, we've been, those who study and know that you've been fighting that in Egypt that they were black. So just give another 25, 30 years, 40 years from now, Africa is going to be where all them over there. And the history going to say they was there. And the whole history, how I'm talking about in the original, in the beginning, is going to be them. You got $200 billion from them. China got 1 billion people over where they at. If you look at on the internet and you start looking about how China's getting gutted out, a lot of that shit is becoming vacant and just desert ass places. Where the Chinese going? They've been getting up in Africa. They got $200 billion invested. Check this out. Now check this out. Now to show you that hard times gonna come there, I want you to see this. This just came out today. Let me make sure this the right one. Yeah, this the right one here. Let me show y'all something. So I'm Mr. Blows Your Mind. I'm the whiteologist. I looks at all this shit. So here you go. Check it out, y'all. Check this one out.
To me.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Before,
like you are punishing me.
Before you were Kenya.
So you are punishing me because I'm...
Everyone, every Kenyan, even Enna, this is all the Kenyans, like a monkey. Even Uhuru, Kenyatta, all of them.
It's like a monkey?
Yeah, sure.
The president of this country?
Yeah, sure. You can go to court and tell me who has the evidence. Kenyans like an actor, you know? Just speak is cheap, speak is cheap. I also can like a Kenya, you know? So this is what I'm saying. I have to give a letter to you. You have to sign. Only later.
So, Judge, I think you should go back to China.
Really? And why you have to stay here?
You see, even if you don't fire me,
no, I will fire you after I go back to China.
That no problem. I will not work here forever.
Sure. You should not do the business with Chinese, no?
But whatever you are doing is extremely wrong.
I don't care.
You don't care?
I don't belong to here. I don't like here. Like a monkey people. I don't like talk with them. Smell is bad, and poor, and foolish, and black. Who like them? Why not the bright people? Like the American?
Then why are you coming to do business in Kenya if we are poor, we are black, for money? Why is it that you need our money?
Money is important.
Money is important.
Sure. Why not?
But why don't you go and look for money from the fellow whites? Why are you coming to Africa, where like specifically Kenya? We are black, we are poor.
This is for others.
Why are you coming for our money? If we are poor, why don't you give us the bikes for free? Why are you exchange? Yes. The US has US aid. They give us donations. Yeah. If we are poor, you should be giving us these motorbikes for free. You donate for free because you don't expect money from poor people.
In your shirt. If a great signature, the letter.
No, I'm not going to sign.
Okay, I'll give you the letter. Go.
No problem.
Go back
home. Now, you may not have been able to understand exactly what was being said there. Here was a Chinese that is in Kenya who got a business that hiring Africans. And he's kind of like those who come from the hood. They got those little bodegas and these stores we be going to. And the people that be from other nations be in there and the way they be treating. But here this Chinese is in Africa, employing an African who he's about to fire. Based on the African is like, I didn't like the way you be treating me no damn way. So he's saying, you know how it kind of, if you done been through that situation when you fire, you gonna have them last words before they try to have security escort you out. No, Mr. Bells of mine been there. So, you know, so he said some things that like, this place, y'all nothing but monkeys, it stinks here, you people are poor, right? Now that's just one Chinese. What about all them that's flooding in like that? Africa in trouble, y'all. Africa is in big, trouble. Now, a lot of mothers not going to like what I'm saying because, again, they have their affinity for the motherland. And I'm not saying that I don't have affinity for the motherland. But if you constantly, history keep repeating itself, that the people who are sitting there supposed to be in the administration of running in Africa keep making deals with people, acting as if they don't understand how the game is being played, and you being naive and trustworthy. Could I be wrong? I would love to be wrong. But don't tell me that somebody probably going to give you $200 billion and talking about no string attached, and you falling for that shit, thinking he's there as your friends. Remember, John Henry Clark already told you, you don't have no friends in this game. You got no friends. Yet you take $200 billion from the Chinese, acting as if like they your friends. That's land they done just bought. They just know what's coming, as I'm thinking about South Africa. You understand? What's happening in South Africa will be what they be able to do, because Lima done already told you, now that they done elect them in, they said they finna get them out of there. But see, all of them is lining up. I done read at times where Russia said it's gonna back. And we know some of the European nations is gonna back South Africa. So they all getting in position. But China's gonna make it where we own it because we done paid for it. Man, dude. History kind of keeps repeating itself because people keep doing the same old thing because you're not looking at it for what it is. Again, if I'm wrong, I can accept that. But I'm seeing the long game like a chess game. This is what this look like. Okay? Matter of fact, I'm going to give you a little piece to show you what they had already been doing in there. Okay? Well, check this one out. Now, this one is, I'm not even going to play all of it because it's a real long video, but it's just going to give you the gist of what I'm talking about. You'll see with your own eyes just in case you didn't know nothing about it. You know I have to feed y'all. So here you go.
In the Egyptian capital, Cairo, a Chinese community has established itself, reflecting the growing business relationship between Egypt and China. The two countries have developed a robust trade relationship. In recent years, overall trade between Egypt and China has exceeded $11 billion. Egypt has awarded lucrative construction contracts to Chinese companies and endorsed China's plans to build a global trade route, the Road and Belt Initiative. The Chinese community in Egypt has grown to more than 10,000. This is the story of the Chinese who came to study, work, and open businesses here, and who have discovered an affinity for the life and culture of the most populous Arab country.
我叫邵立海，来自中国的山东，在埃及生活了15年的时间。在埃及呢，我有自己的企业，然后呢，还担任了一些社会职务。
我叫周平，我来自中国东北，在这，因为我们在埃及这吧是中国老板和埃及老板合资的工厂。
当时呢，我带了好多那个礼物啊。 就是给埃及朋友送的吗？
在2014年的7月10号，我到达了埃及。
我叫周建国，我来自中国黑龙江省。我1997年来埃及经商，到现在已经在埃及差不多18年的时间了。
我叫王强，今年24岁，我在埃及帮助我姐姐做服装生意，住在开罗。
我叫王红斌，1999年来到开罗，在埃及。我刚开始来的时候是做服装生意，完成发集装箱。
Starting in 1954, Egypt was one of the first countries to establish diplomatic and economic relations with the People's Republic of China. In 1995, China and Egypt signed a trade agreement that boosted business relations. Cheap goods and services flowed from China into Egyptian markets. By 2002, China had become Egypt's sixth largest trading partner. Today, that relationship has grown further, and China is now Egypt's second largest trading partner. But on a much smaller individual scale, Wang Bin and her brother Wang Cheng seized a local business opportunity and sell clothes in the cities